St. Augustine. Okay, but it's always decent country prophet. We need this in now 40 years or more. 48, 40 and more, going strong. But we got some experts, and we have now Brother DJ. He's not a preacher. He's not a deacon. But he's a faithful servant of the Lord. Him and his wife, they come in work. And, we love them together. And I look forward to him because he's a young man in marriage. And we need his input and encouragement. So we need him on the board. And also, he's giving a message tomorrow, Sunday message. So he's with us. Yeah. And brother Lemon, he used to be a former preacher here. He's at Tri-City now. And we just, excited that he's here tonight. And we always enjoy this when he's coming. So we got one missing, Brother Jerry Green. He's a deacon, and things happen. So whenever he comes here, he comes on board. And Brother Antonio, he's the elder here of the Lord. So we're glad, the elders, he's the overseer. And so we know he got a lot to say about Dizzy Green on the other side. And so his next panel speaker, Brother Jerry Green. He's a deacon, and also Brother Fleming is a deacon. So we got servants here, serving the Lord, and so we're all here for one purpose: glorify God, give Him the glory. Say whatever you say or do, all to His name and to His glory. Okay, so right now, our culture, as you said, our culture encourage us to look for the greener grass. We know that's not always true. It happens a lot. He said, grass is greener. I want the other side. It didn't work out for him and his family. So it's always greener. The purpose of this is to seek the things of God and not the things of the world. Because the Bible says things of heaven is more important than the things of this world. But we gravitate. That's what the world says. Get it. I want it. I have to have it now. But we used to, when I was growing up, they used to say greener grass is keeping up with the Joneses. They get a new car. He got a big promotion. I need a promotion. I tell you, that doesn't work. I used to work for DIS, and I said, if I can only get a raise, I know I can make it. And guess what? They gave us a $5 raise. Okay. I was happy with this. Next week, I need another raise. I need another raise. So I don't want no more raises. Because the grass not always green on the other side. So in other words, we have to be content with the Lord bless us with and enjoy our labors here while we can. Because if I speak too much, I don't want to take too much time. But I want to hear what the country prophet has to say about it.
I brought mine wrote down because I'm old. The question I asked is the grass greener on the other side of the fence. But see, I'm a farmer. I watch the cows and horses bend the fence down to get the grass on the other side of the fence. I've heard so many stories about the green grass on the other side of the fence. The question I ask, because when I'm driving, I wonder a lot. I wonder, this will apply, I can assure you. I wonder when Adam and Eve ate that forbidden fruit, did it taste like a fruit they had already eaten? Have you ever thought about that? You see, sometime when we're looking for the grass that's green on the other side of the fence, we may be eating grass that tastes just like the grass we've already eaten. They lost the garden because they were trying to figure out that they were getting a different grass. Now, y'all forgive me if I use grass a lot in this because that's what I went through. As a mechanic, while I was working, I never bought those fancy ritzy cars, but I saw people with the BMWs and the Road Rangers. I had a niece, has a niece that loves her Range Rover, and they also mentioned a Porsche. But if you drive around town, you find this thing called a Porsche, BMW, and Road Ranger, Range Rover repair shop. So that means the only difference is you put more money into what you got that you got to take to repair than I put into what I got. I believe grass is not greener on the other side is we are trying to make an excuse not to put the effort into what we have so that we make that excuse that the grass is greener on the other side. I noted that the Bible is a manual for human happiness. Now, if you follow the Bible and you do what the Bible says, God knew already what we were going to have trouble with because He made the man and He made the woman. So He knew what's in me and He knew what's in my wife. If I want to live with her, it's just a matter of whether I want to do the devotion, the dedication to deal with her. One of my good statements, if y'all know me, my family know me, and they tired of me saying this, but one of my good illustrations is know the people you're dealing with. The other time we were here, I remember mentioning somebody said that, repeated it. We've been married 48 years. Why are we arguing over the same thing? Because you see, 30 years ago, I was acting this way and you didn't leave. 30 years ago, you were acting this way and I didn't leave. Why are we arguing over the same thing? I think sometimes it deals with the focus. If we focus on doing what God said do and treating others, that's why I wrote down Matthew 7 and 12. As you would that others do to you, let me say that Larry way. As you would that your wife do to you, do so to her. I don't think I changed the meaning of that verse. But we don't apply that to marriage. We apply that to all other relationships, but we don't apply that to marriage. I believe we need to apply that to marriage. Treat her the way you'd like to be treated. And I think the returns are so much greater, yet somehow or another we don't pay that much attention because we focus on what? How you treat me. You're not treating me right. No. If I focus on how I treat Almos more, I'm guilty. If I focus on how I treat Almos more, I have less time to worry about how she treats me. So what I'm saying is, I like Matthew 7 and 12. Husband, treat your wives as you'd like for them to be treated with honor and respect. And wives, treat your husband with honor and respect. And if we do that, we can work out any kind of problem we're having. I have come to believe, and somebody can look at me funny, and I'll be through because it's eight more pages on here. I have come to the conclusion that there's no such thing as a marriage that can't work. Amen. If the two people involved in the marriage are willing to put forth the effort to make it work. Because, yes, the grass may look all right on the other side, but when you start talking about how it tastes, maybe you got the best grass already where you are. Mm-hmm.
Well, No, I'll go ahead and get this over with. But, like you said, I'm the youngest one up here, but I believe that I got something to say about marriage. We just hit 5 years yesterday, so and I know what the Bible says about marriage, so I know I got something to say on it. John 14:2-3. I'm just gonna read two passages to kind of expound on it. John 14:2-3. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. If I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also. And then Revelations 21:1-4. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people. And God himself shall be with them and be their God. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. Reason why I chose to kind of talk about these two is because this is talking about Christ and the church. And there is no other church. There's only one. And this is how I treat, me and my wife's marriage. It's just like, our marriage, everybody's marriage should be just like Christ and the church. There's only one. So there's no other grass. There's no other grass to even talk about when, that's the way I see it. The world will, especially people our age, the world will tell you, oh, yeah, you can go out there and do it again. There's other people out there. No, it's not. When it comes to God's word, there's only one. And that's the choice I made, so that's what I got to stick with. Something I want to bring up, it's funny, just talking about how, young people like just give up so easily over little stuff. I can recall when we got married, we argued about folding the clothes. I'm from the military, so I wanted it done a certain way. I folded my stuff a certain way. We got to a bigger argument about it. But like I said, we hit our 5-year anniversary yesterday, and we were folding clothes this morning, and we were just talking about it. Like, you know what? Like, that was stupid. Like, why were we arguing over that? It makes no sense. But the reason why I bring that up because that kind of stuff is what tears marriages apart now. That little simple stuff. But if you have God in your mind all the time, if you're serving God and doing what He says to do, you ain't got to worry about that stuff. And that stuff doesn't play a factor. Talking about grass is green on the other side, like I just said, there's no other side. There's no other grass. That's the only grass I got, and that's why I'm a water and put into. Just like Jesus went to go prepare, just like Jesus went to go prepare for the church, getting us the mansion way. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to get everything ready for us, preparing for us. This is what I'm working on. I want to make her happy. Christ is if we do what we're supposed to do, we're gonna make heaven our home. And that's our goal, and that's just how I kind of treat our marriage and what it should look like.
Amen. All right. So the question is: the grass greener on the other side? I tell you, and I think some of the things that Brother Shed said, it kind of alluded to the fact that there may be the appearance that the grass looks greener. But we all know the saying that everything that glitters not gold. Everything that looks like a designer purse is not actually a designer purse. So when we look at that grass, it might look greener, but that could be AstroTurf. So the appearance is there. But however, here's the thing that I want us to really think about. So it may have the appearance, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it is. Now, and a lot of this too that I really wanted to look at is when you go back all the way to the beginning, when you consider the first marriage, Adam and Eve, and Brother Shed even talked about this, and I was hoping he wasn't going to go any further, but I'm glad he didn't. But however, he brought up Adam and Eve. And I think what you have to do is you got to go back to the first design that God put in place with marriage, with Adam and Eve. Because when you look at the whole picture there, you have a man and a woman, a husband and a wife. They were placed in the garden. They had everything at their disposal. Everything was beneficial for them. They had everything that they needed in order to produce and to prosper. Everything was there. But there was just that thing that they were not participating in, which was that tree in the middle of the garden. Everything else you could have. And when you think about the marriage, between my wife and myself, God has given us everything that we need, that we can be able to prosper, that we can be able to grow, to be healthy, be productive, everything that we need. But however, sometimes what happens is what Satan does is he comes along and he wants to put some stuff in front of you to make you think, yeah, you might have this and that, but you don't have this. And so this right here looks better. Why? Because you can't have that. And so he presents things in such a way that will make you think, as he told them, that this tree here will provide more to you. You'll become wise. Yeah, you'll have all of these things, everything. And then look at the tree. It's pleasant to the eyes. You know, he lays everything out to make you think that right there is what you're missing out on. And then, so when you look at it, but we all know the story when they ate of it, that cost them. Why? Because there are things that we need to understand that God has given us. And if we would just work that garden that God has given us, then we can have everything that we need. And we learn to leave things alone that don't belong to us. The other thing I will say, as it pertains to this, you know, a lot of times what happens in marriages and where things go awry or go off track, and we start looking at things thinking that it's greener, is because what you're dealing with is you're dealing with two imperfect people. Okay. But however, God's plan for marriage is perfect. So now you get two imperfect people who are coming together. How can we make this thing work? You got to stick with God's perfect plan. The thing is, because I'm imperfect, maybe I start dwelling on the things that I want more than what God's words want. Or I start looking at my wife's imperfections. I look at that more as opposed to not realizing I'm not perfect either. But I look at more of her imperfections, and then all of a sudden, because I'm dwelling on that, or I'm dwelling on my own thing because I'm imperfect, then I start looking at other things and thinking, that looks a little bit more better, you know. But however, what we have to understand though is that if we can, two imperfect people, how do you make a marriage work? You got to get God's perfect plan. Everything is laid out in God's perfect plan. The way the husband ought to treat the wife, the way the wife ought to treat the husband, the way that we interact within the marriage. If we would just stick to the perfect plan, then we can be able to build that relationship. That grass can be just as green as whatever you're looking at. But however, we got to understand that in order to make that work, we got to get back to the blueprint. But when you get off the blueprint, then you open the door to things to start working. And Satan, that's all he needs is just a little crack in the door to start working on that mind and make you think that, yeah, something is better over here. But no, God has given us everything that we need in order to make that thing work, to be the way that it should be, that to keep that grass green. And the thing about it is it's going to take work. It's going to take work. A lot of people get away from that. It's just too much. But no, anything worth having is worth working for. And so therefore, yeah, you just got to get back to God's word. And everything that we see and how we treat our husband or a husband treats the wife, that involves some sacrifice, and that involves some compromise. And that means that I'm going to have to put in some effort. And I can't just sit back and just say, you know what, that's tough. I ain't dealing with that. I'm just going to give up on this, go pursue this. But yeah, so is the grass greener? It may appear that it is, but in actuality, it's not.
Yes. The question was, is the grass greener on the other side? The grass could be greener on the other side if you had a choice. We don't have a choice. in the matter to be looking over the fence. If you have chosen your spouse, you don't have the choice to be looking on the other side of the fence to see if it's green. Because once you took those vows, death do you part, guess what? As long as both of y'all are still alive, y'all need to be working that out. Regardless of what's going on, you need to be working that out. You know, a lot of times we used to walk around the neighborhood and you would see a whole bunch of yards be burned up from the sun, jacked up, weeds everywhere. Then you see that one yard, grass just green. You'd be like, man, I wish my yard was like that. Well, one year I decided, you know what, I'm gonna make my yard green. I had to till up the ground, go buy a whole bunch of grass, load all that grass off the truck, get my kids to help me lay that stuff out, water it. So is it worth having that grass green? That's a whole lot of work and going to have that grass green. A whole lot of work.
Yep.
And when we look at relationships, guess what? It's a whole lot of work goes into a relationship if you want it to work. Now, if you don't want it to work, guess what? There ain't that much work going on. It's just somebody just waiting for an out to go. And so a lot of times, you know, we look at our society today. Our society has basically told them you have choices. So when they take those vows, really, those vows don't mean nothing to them. Because as soon as you upset me or you do something I don't like or you gain weight or whatever, guess what? I'm out of here. Because the world has told me I have choices. But if you're a Christian, you don't have those choices. Because once you made the commitment before God to your spouse, you should be committed to that vow that you took before God. And guess what? You know, a lot of times, you know, we like I think Brother Weldon and everybody pretty much has said, sometimes we look at our spouses, you know, stuff that they do, but we're not looking at the stuff that we do. Because sometimes, you know, you come in with a bad attitude and they upset you or whatever, and you just start focusing on the stuff that you don't like what they do, you know, and then you start contemplating things in your mind. And I believe that's the problem. We don't sit down and communicate with one another. You know, communication is a big thing. Would basically hit off a lot of things if we communicated with one another. Nowadays, people don't communicate. I believe, you know, when you see those relationships that has lasted a long time, they communicated with one another. You know, they didn't, like the Bible says, you know, when you're angry with one another, you don't allow yourself to lay down on that because you don't know if you're going to wake up in the morning. You need to get that right before y'all go to sleep. Get that right. So in the morning, you ain't waking up looking at that person crossway and she's looking at you crossway. And I like what Paul said in Philippians chapter 4, verses 11 and 12. He says, not that I speak from any personal need, for I have learned to be content and self-sufficient through Christ, satisfied to the point where I am not disturbed or uneasy, regardless of my circumstance. I know how to get alone and live humbly in difficult times, and also know how to enjoy abundance and live in prosperity. And in every circumstance, I have learned the secret of facing life, whether well fed or going hungry, whether having an abundance or being in need. He starts this out, he has learned how to be content. We live in a society, we're not content with nothing. You know, back in the day, you used to have to wait for your mother or your grandmother to cook a meal. We're not content with that no more. We want, boom, right now. So everything has to be microwavable or air fried, all kind of way. We don't want to wait. We're not content with nothing. God has blessed you with something, and guess what? I'm not content with it. All of a sudden, I want something better. Anytime you have the option, guess what? You're going to always choose something new. It's like I had paid my truck off. It's been paid off for a while. Truck's perfect. Everybody's like, man, that truck looks like it's new because I took care of it. Well, one day I just decided, you know what? I'm going to go get me a new truck. And I wouldn't got it. My neighbor, why you get a new truck? And I'm looking at it because I could. See, but that ain't the attitude we should have with our relationships. Go out and just get something because I can. But with, you know, stuff that we can just purchase or whatever, yeah, I can do that. But when it comes to our relationship, when things get bad, just like Paul said, I learned to be content regardless of whatever circumstances that I'm in. I have to continue to stay there. Yeah, things could get bad, but guess what? I'm not going nowhere. I like how Brother Cunningham said about their relationship. He said, I'm not going nowhere and I'm not getting left. That's the attitude we should have. You know, I'm not going nowhere and I'm definitely ain't gonna get left. So we need to have that attitude when it comes to our relationship. We have to continue to work that thing out because that's what God expects. He doesn't expect you to just give up because he doesn't give up on us.
Right.
Because what if he had that same attitude that we have and just give up on us just because of what we do? And we know we're not always perfect. We're always doing things that's contrary to God's will, and God never gives up on us. So guess what? We don't need to be giving up on our relationship. We need to continue to stay in there, regardless of what's going on. Because it says, here Paul said, he said, I learned, when things are going good, we need to be thanking God. And even when things are going bad, we need to continue to pray to God to help us through this. See, when both parties are continue to stay with God, it's going to work out. It ain't going to always work out the way you want, but guess what? Y'all still going to be together and y'all going to work that out.
First of all, I want to thank all the brothers who have spoken before me. And this makes it real hard for me because I was hoping that Jerry would stop. Everybody, so everything that was covered, it shot everything, but it didn't really. I'm gonna start where Jerry left off in just a moment. I know when we first bought our house, first 10 years, oh my God, it was beautiful. Now, the grass was green. It was just the right thickness and everything. It felt, it had the bounce to it and everything. After them 10 years, it went down. And now it's totally shot. But this was the reason it was so good at first. Both me and Linda worked hard on keeping it that way. She would water it. I'd make sure I cut it and kept it nice. When I started working really long hours, her and the kids would cut it, and they did it good enough to where it didn't mess it up too bad for me to keep it looking good. But the key was, what did I say? We worked together on it. Mm-hmm. Now, for any relationship to be what it's supposed to be, we both got to work at it. We both got to work together at it. When I fall back, she pick up. When she fall back, I pick up. But that's how it's got to be to keep our grass as green as we need it to be. Now, the problem is, like Brother Green had ended up with Philippians chapter 4, we can't be content because we listen too much to what the world has to say. Mm-hmm. See, the world's idea of it is, if it don't work out, you can always get a divorce. It's more, it's a lot more fish out there. It's a lot more, however they put it. It's a lot more to choose from. But like Brother DJ said, ain't no other choices. I chose her. And when she said I do, she chose me. Mm-hmm. And so ain't no other choices out there if we are both godly people. Mm-hmm. If we're going to trust in God and we're going to do it the way he said, Amen. Ain't no other choice. And we got to stop listening to the world so much that we allow them choices to be there. I like something Brother Wise always says that him and Ruth does. They don't let the sun go down on their anger. If they got a disagreement, they get it straight before they go to sleep. Now, that's a good practice, because what we do sometimes is we allow our disagreements to fester. And then Satan puts something else in front of you and makes it look like that's the best thing, that's better than what I got. But it's not. I think Brother Weldon and everybody else has covered that. It's nothing else looks as good as what I got. If that's what I chose, then I'm saying something negative about myself to go somewhere else. No, because I chose the best thing. And that's how we all, men and women, got to look at it. I made the best choice, and I'm gonna deal with it. Stuff happen all the time, and it's not just in marriage. And see, I wanted to cross this over and say it's also about the church. Now, what I'm saying is, a lot of times we get disgruntled and upset, and we want to leave. We ain't got no excuse. If God can put up with me, how come I can't put up with my brothers and sisters? When Jesus, if Jesus if we're supposed to be married to the Lord, then that means we're married to one another as well. We are connected, and once we break that connection, then we are breaking our life. And so now I got to look for another life connection, which is not another. It's not, especially when you just leave the church completely. But I'll say this: once you start hopping, you're gonna keep hopping. You know, your mind is never gonna be settled. If you go out and look for another woman, you're gonna keep looking for another woman because you ain't never be settled. Now, this is the reason why people aren't settled. In Matthew chapter 16, verse 24, it says, "Then Jesus said unto his disciples, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me." We ain't denying ourselves. And that's the biggest problem with, I'll say, Christians, with mankind, period. But we focusing on us now. That's the biggest problem with Christians. We won't deny ourselves because we're listening to too much other outside noise. And that's all it is. You know, that's outside noise. Now, if I want my grass to get back green, I need, and if I want my yard to be full again, I gotta bring some dirt in, and I gotta put in some work. Like Brother Green was talking about. I gotta lay down some more sod. I gotta do all of that. Right now, I ain't willing to do that for the grass. But for my relationship, I'll do whatever it takes to make sure that our grass together stays greener than anybody else's. I can't see no other grass. Like Brother Green said, I'm not gonna look over that over no more fences. That ain't my yard. I don't care what they got. I can't afford it. And a lot of times, when you run to a new relationship, you find out later you can't afford it. You know, now it ain't always about money. You can't afford the arguments. You can't afford the beatings, whatever it is. Just because you thought that looked good, you don't know everything about it.
Right.
I don't know what it took, what kind of seed he had to put down, or what kind of fertilizer, or what kind of time. You don't know. So it's best to do what the Lord said. Work it out. Stick with what you got. Stop being selfish. You got faults too. I got faults. So how can I look at her and single her out and say, well, you know what, you gained weight? Shoot, I gain, I lose, I gain, I lose. You know, but it's work. Because I done heard that discussion, guys. Brother Green brought up, I done heard that discussion too many times. Man, she gained all that weight. Well, you know what? Instead of going to the gym by yourself, why don't you take it with you? Well, I mean, you know, you ain't doing what you need to do. You need to put in all the effort. You know, put in a little bit more effort, and then you won't have no. You'll find out you ain't got room to complain. Or when you examine yourself, when I look at me on a daily basis, I know I got too much to work on.
Yeah.
So how can I criticize anybody else, especially the one I chose? When I criticize her, then what am I saying about myself? I chose it. I chose it. And so, but I'm gonna stop at that. Go ahead, Bro.
Yeah, I like to think kind of bringing out that different observation about the grass really green on the other side. And I could have said it's, the grass is like foolish, you know, and so it seems like food goes, like he was saying. So I like to thank the panel. We're gonna take a break. I was just looking at. And we're gonna look at the spiritual side of it. Now, I always talk about, keeping up with the Joneses. But a lot of marriages are affected by sexual morality. Where they look at, like you can think about David. When he saw Bathsheba, the beautiful woman bathing, sure he thought that was green grass to him at the time because he invited her over into his house and had an affair. And you know what happened? After that, he sinned against God. He broke God's law, and God said, because if you've done that, what you've done, now I'm sinning against me, because the sin has got you robbed. His faithful servant in his army was serving David. He slept with his wife and got pregnant. You know the story? And God said, because of this, the sword will never end. Leave the work from your house. So all his kids killed, murdered, tried to dethrone him. Everything bad happened. It led to a lot of pain and sorrow. So is it worth going on the other side? So you get over there, you think it's good, but is it worth it? And you can say, so like I say, friend, I would say, keep what you got and make it better. They had a penny wise. You took one new lamb, the guy wanted that one, he wanted that one. Sometimes greed and our own self and pleasure make us want to go to the other side. But is it worth it? Not only in this life, but by the next life. So there's some thought about spiritual things we need to focus on. Everyone, most of all, when we come back, we want your comments, questions, or any observations. And we'll take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and finish up. Thank you.
Yeah.